You and Cal are working inside the geoponics dome today, preparing some tiny sprouts to move from the temperature-controlled greenhouse to the open field. This is the best chance these plants will have to get a hearty start on life, before they are transplanted outside to the alien acidic Vertumnan soil. You have a lot of sprouts to transfer, which involves a lot of wheeling heavy trays from one place to another. And it's hot inside the domes too. You're covered in sweat and dirt by midday. Work hard. Yeah, you're so tough. You've never met a wheel you couldn't barrow. Or is it a barrow you couldn't wheel? Either way, you're a pro at moving these sprouts from place to place. Cal isn't so impressed.
Hey!
He says, stopping you from charging into the fields.
Be careful with that thing. Stop showing off, Soul. You can't win at farming.
The suns rise again after glow, heralding a new year. It's your 16th birthday. You wake in your new quarters, blinking into the watery sunlight. Dust motes float through the air, and you take a moment to enjoy the perfection of your bed while you listen to the sounds of the colony waking up outside. So much has happened in 1 year. Just a few short months ago, you thought your life was over. Now it's better than ever. There's plenty of food, and the colony is safe. You even have your own bedroom. You're considering snoozing until your dad wakes up when your reverie is interrupted by someone banging enthusiastically on the door. It's Cal.
Happy birthday!
He exclaims, giving you a big hug.
I wanted to be the first person to say that.
You hear a scuttling of metallic legs. What the heck? And a strange knee-high robot bursts into your engineering lab, going full tilt on its 6 spidery legs. It slams into a wall hard enough to knock itself down. It seems to be having trouble getting back up again, and it's flailing its metal legs around dangerously. Smash it before it hurts someone!
Oh, the poor little thing.
Congruence's portable screen wheels in, her projected face an avatar of dismay.
You broke it, and I was so close to getting its new movement algorithm online. Working with robots is just so hard with no hands,
She says, wheeling back and forth in a display of frustration.
This was much easier when Hal was here. I miss him.
Congruence doesn't need to clear her throat, but you get the distinct impression she's simulating it anyway.
Ahem. Well, if you know anyone with more sense and physics skill than you do, let them know I need a helper.
Security Chief Rhett interrupts your afternoon training to address the group. Noni perks up. This seems important.
Since the original colony was destroyed,
Rhett begins.
we have needed every skilled security officer we can find to defend our home. And now, with Governor Lum's blessing, age is no longer a requirement. We are looking for young recruits to join the ranks of the defense squads. This is a serious job.
He punches his hand for emphasis.
You'll be soldiers, not little kids learning self-defense or peering down from the safety of the walls. You will be in danger. You need to be brave and know your way around a weapon. Step forward if you think you have what it takes to defend our colony.
Quietly hang back for now,
Good.
he says to those who step forward, including Moni.
For the rest of you, if you change your mind and want to join the real soldiers, you know where my office is.
Rex is playing a game where he throws a ball up in the air as high as he can and tries to catch it without using his hands. You narrowly miss him running right into you, and the ball bounces away.
Shucks!
Rex exclaims, twiddling his big furry ear.
I was on a roll! Do you need something?
I got you a present! Rex howls with happiness as he takes the mushwood from you.
You remembered my birthday and brought me the perfect stick for my collection!
Your dad shows you how to look at plant cells under a microscope and check for signs of disease, and how to identify different kinds of cells. You're kind of learning together. Here on Vertumna, the taxonomy he learned for classifying plants and animals is different. When comparing them to samples from Earth, Vertumnan plant cells have a structure far more similar to animals than they do plants. You're woken by the buzzing of your holopalm. It's a colony-wide alert. You rub your eyes and ponder the thickness of the air seeping into your bedroom through the open veranda door. It's an ominous but beautiful sight. The seasonal pale pink haze has turned a deep fuchsia, with scintillating silver sparkles floating through it. The shimmer! You check your holopalm messages. There's a colony-wide notice telling you to stay put. Head to medbay. You rush to the engineering wing, trying to hold your breath as you pass through the thick clouds of pink, sparkling pollen. Security Chief Rhett blocks your way into medbay.
What are you doing here? You should be in your quarters.
From medbay, you hear the sound of sneezing. Your dad's sneezing. You shout for him and squirm and try to get past Rhett, but he practically lifts you off of the ground. You fight until he lets you through.
Hey, little aubergine.
Your dad rasps. He looks terrible. He's covered in the shimmer and shaking as he takes pained breaths. Chief Engineer Instance glares at you, but she doesn't tell you to leave right away. You sit beside your father's bedside. Your dad grabs your hands and pulls you close. Your awareness narrows to just the two of you, the rest of the room falling away under the gravity you feel when he locks pink-rimmed eyes with yours.
So, my sweet little cherry tomato.
He says, trying to smile for you.
I don't think your old man's gonna last much longer.
You sob and try to pull away in denial, but he shakes his head.
You're gonna make it through this.
He wheezes, his voice brittle as a dried flower.
I love you so much.
Instance tries to separate you so she can administer something, but your dad waves her away. He hasn't stopped staring right at you.
You're the greatest thing I ever cultivated.
He chokes out.
You're going to be fine. I love...
His eyes roll back in his head and the medbed lets out a horrible, droning whine. Instance yells at you to leave so she can save him, and you flee the room. When they finally let you see him again, your dad is laying in a medbed, asleep. The shimmer is all over him now, and his skin is glittery and strangely lumpy, like something's growing out of it. Something is growing out of him. You realize as you see Instance carefully scrape what looks like fungus from his shoulder. She places it in a petri dish and hands it to Tangent. There are tiny fungal growths all over him, even none poking out from the corner of his mouth. You watch with disgust as a thin trickle of glittering pink dust leaks off the tip of it and disperses into the air. Tang places the sample from your dad under an analyzer and turns it on. She looks tired.
I'm sorry, Sol.
She mumbles.
We were close.
You sit with him for a while until Dr. Instance sends you back to your quarters to rest. In the early hours of the morning, you hear that your dad has passed away. You spend most of the next month in your quarters. They hold a funeral for your father. You're becoming an old hand at these funerals. First Tammy, then her father, Uncle Tonin, and your own mother, and Calm, and everyone else who died in an attack. It feels like your own mother's funeral was only weeks ago. It's so colossally unfair. No one quite knows what to say to you, though they grieve along with you. It doesn't make it any easier. Aunt Anne and all the other adults of the colony will always be here for you, but you guess you're an orphan now. You miss your dad. You miss your mom too. Mostly, you just sleep. One morning, Chief Engineer Instance asks you to visit her in the medbay. You go because you don't have the energy to say no.
I have to tell you something delicate about your father's condition, Sol.
She begins, folding her hands on her desk.
I hope this information will give you some comfort. After your father's death, we continued researching the shimmer.
She continues, her voice even and neutral.
Being able to study the disease in its terminal phase, and beyond, was the missing piece. We now know how to prevent the shimmer from taking hold in human cells.
She says, her faint smile not quite reaching her eyes.
With cultures grown from your father's cell lineage, everyone in the colony can be inoculated against the shimmer. Thanks to your father, we have a cure.
Be numb.
It's okay to feel that way.
Instance tells you, with uncharacteristic kindness that you find comforting.
Grief is different for everyone. If you need more time off to rest, nobody will mind.
Keep resting. You spend the month writing a prodigious amount of poetry, deleting it almost as soon as you're done. It makes you feel a little better to be able to express your feelings. Dis shifts uncomfortably from foot to foot.
Sorry about your dad.
He mutters. He looks out towards the wilderness.
The pollen's really thick in the Valley of Vertigo, too.
He adds.
Sometimes people in expeditions would get kinda weird about it. Guess that's not gonna happen anymore, now that they figured out the shimmer.
Moni nods at you as you approach.
Sorry about your dad.
She says, with a sympathetic but slightly distant smile.
He was cool.
Cal gives you a watery smile.
Hey,
He says, quietly.
I could really use one of your dad's hugs right now, you know?
Your father was beloved by everyone in geoponics for his kind, easygoing nature. He and your mom were like two perfect opposites that way. No one really knows what to say to you, but they all offer their condolences. Moni lifts the bottom edge of her shirt to wipe her face.
I've been training in this heat for 6 years.
She says, smiling mischievously.
I've got the home advantage.
Here, I got something for you.
Cool, thanks.
Moni says, taking the egg.
I guess it is my birthday this week. I kind of forgot.
You show up for practice and spot Vace and Rex on the pitch, standing with a healthy distance between the two of them. Vace is surrounded by a group of friends, and Rex is bopping a sports ball on his head and chest. Moni is here as well. She's wearing Com's old sports ball jersey. Rhett picks her as captain for one team, and you as the other. Who do you pick for your team? Rex. Popularity doesn't matter in sports ball, you think. Rex pops the ball under his arm and saunters over, ignoring the venomous look Vace gives him. Moni chooses Vace right away. Let's sports ball! You and Rex rip the butts of Vace and Moni and everyone else on their team.
Oh, you cheated!
Vace complains.
Come on! Soul and Top Boy against me and Nemi? How's that even a contest?
He storms off the pitch, venting about how the game was rigged for weaker players because sports ball isn't a real game. Moni comes over.
I think you did well.
She says.
Good work out there.
Rex goes to give her a high five, but she looks towards where Vace disappeared and shakes her head. It's Vertumnalia! In the midst of the colony decorating and setting out the foods for the feast, you have trouble finding your festive spirit. Your dad's only been dead for a few weeks. How could anyone celebrate at a time like this? You gather in the colony square for the usual speeches. Lum takes the stage to fanfare and applause.
Hello, people of Vertumna.
He exclaims over the din.
Happy Vertumnalia!
He raises his hand to call for silence.
Before we celebrate, I want to recognize those we lost this year. Head of Geoponics Geranium and Surveyor Imbroglio.
The crowd goes silent for a minute. Your vision blurs with tears. How is this supposed to make you feel better that he's gone?
This year has taught us that the aliens are more dangerous than we ever knew.
Lum continues.
It's not just the attacks during Glow. They're weaponizing the very air we breathe. But they won't win. Already we've discovered how to beat them at their own game. With everyone inoculated against the Shimmer, we're one step closer to total dominion over this planet.
After the council members each give their annual reports, everyone starts clearing the square to set up for the Vertumnalia Games. You feel the pulse of a new holo message in your palm, and open it to read. Happy Vertumnalia! There's a present for you on the table. XOXO, your secret admirer. You rush over to the feast table and spot a wrapped present in among the roasted vegetables. Wow! You have a secret admirer? You unwrap your present. It's a data band! You snap it on your wrist and boot it up on your holopalm. It's full of your favorite songs, videos, shows, and games. A collection curated by someone who must really know you. Now you'll always have your media with you, even if the net goes down, including all your favorite episodes of The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon. Nice. You search the holopalm for any hint as to who could have made it. You can't find anything. You'll have to ask around. But later, the games are about to begin. You assemble with the other kids for the annual games. What do you choose this year? Bake Off. You join Cal in the kitchens.
Hey, Sol.
He says.
Are you ready to get your bake on?
This year's theme is multi-layered cakes. You'll be in charge of designing, baking, assembling, and decorating a towering monument to sweet cake and frosting. Challenge! You're a bit too ambitious. Your underbaked tears start sagging halfway through assembling and it starts falling apart. Cal's cake is at least architecturally sound, even if his decoration is a little haphazard. You can't even be upset. You gotta eat delicious cake! After the festivities, everyone descends on the feast. You heap your plate with more food than you could eat in 3 sittings. Everyone around you is so happy, but you can't help but notice the empty space where your dad should be sitting. It's your first holiday as an orphan. The other colonists try to make room for you in their conversations, but it's just not the same. You find Cal catching a break in the shade of one of the gardening sheds, a wide-brimmed hat pulled down, low over his eyes. Hearing you approach, he lifts the brim and shoots you a smile.
Hey, Sol. Taking a break too?
Someone gave you a data band. It might have been Cal. Are you my secret admirer? Cal looks away, his smile turning a little embarrassed.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I like you too. Cal blinks.
Whoa, really? I didn't expect that.
Let the moment pass. Cal nods, just soaking in the happiness.
Cool.
He murmurs.
I guess this means you like the data band?
You find Rex playing cards by himself in the lounge with an actual physical deck of cards. He looks up as you approach and visibly brightens when he sees you, sitting up straight with his dog-like ears on alert.
What? Hey, Soul!
He exclaims.
How's it hanging? Do you want to play a game with me?
Sure, what kind of game?
It's called Bottoms Up.
Rex explains.
We both play a card from our hand we think is lower than the one the other person is playing, and the person with the lowest card wins. If you win, you get the number of points that are on your card, plus you get to take a loser's card and add it to your hand. So, you want to play a low card to win, but if you play your high cards at the right time, you get a lot of points. It's a game of compromise. I used to play it all the time back on the Helio. But now everyone's here and, realizing their big dreams of being heroes and saving humanity.
Rex says, rolling his eyes with a good-natured grin.
Soldiers love to gamble.
Rex says.
You know that thing you use here? Kudos? We can bet some kudos on it. Or, maybe, we can bet something more interesting.
How about 100 kudos?
Hey, big spender!
Rex laughs.
Yeah, of course. Whatever you feel comfortable with is fine by me.
He winks. Rex shuffles the cards and deals half the deck to each of you, and you begin to play the game.
The best thing about this game is that it's not very hard to play.
Rex says, scooping up his winning cards.
It's all about how well you know the other person, and, well, we don't know each other very well yet, so... What do you want to know about me?
Have you made any friends here?
Oh yeah, of course!
Rex says. He looks happy.
All the adults are so much nicer than the ones I grew up with. Like, they care so much about how and why they do stuff. I love being around them. And the other teens, like, whoa, you guys are all so cool! Anemone and Tang are so passionate, Cal's a solid sweetheart, and Marz is like a galactic level hottie. Wow.
He trails off, lost in thought.
Oh, and that this guy seems interesting too.
What do you like to do for fun?
Talk to people mostly.
Rex says, and puts down a low card to win the hand.
I like to see what everyone's doing and help them with stuff if I can. I just really like being around other people. I like doing whatever they're doing. Oh, and the cuddling, of course. I love cuddling and running and chasing stuff.
He rubs the soft inner part of his ear and smiles, sheepishly. What are your plans for the future? Rex blinks at you.
Oh wow, big question. I don't know. I think if I stayed on Heliopause, I probably would have ended up becoming a soldier like everyone else. But planetside...
Rex smiles to himself as he puts down a high card.
I could do anything. I've always liked making things with my hands. And I like to make other people happy. Maybe I could do something with that.
Enough talking. Let's just play the game. You play out the rest of the cards, staying fairly even in points until Rex is left with only one card and you have two. You're trailing, but not by much. If you play your low card for an easy win, you'll gain enough points to make it a draw. If you gamble on the slightly higher card in your hand, you might lose entirely. But you could win. What do you do? Play a high card for a chance to win. You put down the higher of your two cards, and Rex shouts.
Are you for real?
He laughs.
That was a really risky play. You're lucky I only had a high card left.
He turns over his card. It's even higher than yours. You win the game by a comfortable margin. Collect your winnings. Rexa links your holopalms and transfers your winnings.
It's a good thing I love helping so much.
He laughs.
You can rack up kudos pretty fast.
Nomi's grooving along to music only they can hear through their hearspeak. They bump into you and gasp, gesturing to turn off their hearspeak.
Oh my gosh! I didn't see you there! Sorry.
They dust you off unnecessarily.
Good as new.
They chirp.
What's going on, Soul?
I have a present for you.
Ooh!
Nomi exclaims, making grabby hands at the pretty crystal.
Happy birthday to me! I can't believe you remembered. Thank you.
You find Nomi-Nomi in the lounge, flanked by 2 holoscreens and doodling in a sketchbook with real paper. One holoscreen is playing an animated kids show, while the other is a wall of text that looks like it might be a translation guide of some kind. Nomi's attention moves between the 3 easily. When they see you, they jump and quickly close their holoscreens, sitting up straight and clutching their sketchbook to their chest.
Oh, hi, Soul!
They giggle, rubbing the back of their head charmingly.
How you doing?
Is that in a different language?
Well, yeah.
Nomi says, wrinkling their nose.
It's better in the original language, but the subtitles don't tell the whole story either.
Nomi sets their sketchbook aside and looks around conspiratorially.
I thought you were gonna bust me for jailbreaking my holopad.
They say.
All the Helio kids have restrictions on what we can watch, and for how long. But you guys have so many more cartoons than we had.
Nomi throws their arms in the air.
Like the first season of Turbo Hyperjet Transform! What?
Where did you learn how to do that? Nomi shrugs and wiggles their fingers.
It was just like modding my gaming gauntlets.
They reply.
Sure, a little bit more complicated because, oh my gosh, no offense, but your holopalm interface is so deprecated. But a lot of the fundamentals are the same.
Nomi closes their eyes and tips their head to the side, smiling.
You know, you've got a holopad genius here too.
They say.
This was mondo helpful helping me figure out your old system.
Wait, like our dis? Nomi nods, blinking innocently.
Yeah.
They chirp.
He's a total sweetheart, don't you think? Anyway, the important thing is that I get to watch every episode of Turbo Hyperjet Transform!
Nomi continues, clapping their hands against their cheeks.
It's the best cartoon ever made! What else has schoolgirls who look like aircraft from the waist down, battling evil aliens while dealing with the stresses of high school life? The Helio Media Archive only had Season 2 through 9, and only 3 of the OVAs!
Nomi says, puffing their cheeks out.
I can't believe in the 4th OVA, Flight Captain Yumiko gets captured by the aliens and brainwashed into thinking she's been an alien sleeper agent the whole time!
You hadn't seen the first season? Nomi shrugs and pokes one finger into their cheek.
Spaceship kids make do! You don't have to know everything about something you like in order to call yourself a fan.
Nomi continues.
Just liking it with all your heart is good enough.
Nomi laughs and flips over their sketchbook, showing off some of their drawings.
I was drawing some fan art for the show.
They say.
Well, it's kind of fan art. Okay, it's really more like if I was a character in Hypergirl Turbojet Transform.
What kind of aircraft would you be? Nomi blinks at you, clearly stunned by your interest.
Well, okay, kind of. You see, all the cool aircraft are already taken, and it's rude to be a double.
They press the tips of their index fingers together and look thoughtful.
Sometimes I draw my character, as something weird. Like a hot air balloon? But then I think, it would be kind of cool if I was the only regular human in the Turbogirl Hyperjets.
The only way to the resting bridges is by glider. Part vehicle, part kite, and all adrenaline. You land on the rocky, broken-up spine of the nearest ridge, and nearly fall over when you look down at the plummeting slope into the basin below. You are a long way up. This and Utopia glide in beside you.
Whew!
Utopia exclaims.
You handled that glider like a champ, Dis. You too, Soul.
She peers down over the slope of the ridge.
A lot more exciting than the swamps, right? I want you two to stick together out here. It's dangerous in those ancient Convergent Domain ruins.
Convergent Domain? Ruins? You look around. The landscape is like nothing you've ever seen before. Dry, cracked soil gives way to steep cliffs, and what little vegetation here is brittle and sharp. You can feel the dry air wick away the moisture in your lips. Wait, what the heck is that? Crystal stuff way down below?
Oh, those?
Utopia says, pointing to a crystal formation so densely packed into the ravine that it looks like a sparkling river. More outcroppings of crystal decorate the slopes.
They're all over the place. Be careful with them. Not sure if they're animal, vegetable, or mineral.
She points off into the distance.
There's a big island of them over there, like a glacier. Covers the whole damn place. Might be related to the Convergent Domain, but we ain't sure yet.
Oh, okay. Huh. And what's that? Stone structures in the distance?
Well, there are buildings here.
Utopia says.
Traces of them, anyway. Maybe 10, 20,000 years old. We sure didn't put them there.
This lights up at the prospect of doing alien archaeology.
We've checked them out, but not thoroughly. Mostly just trying to get a feel for who lived there and why they ain't here no more. Based on some glyphs, we've started calling them the Convergent Domain. Whoever they were, they built things to last.
Utopia admires.
It ain't just arrowheads and cave paintings. There's real architecture. Machines, even.
Wait, what? Tell me more!
I wish I had more to tell you.
Utopia says.
Most everything we found just poses new questions. The structures read more organic than anything. So does that mean their genotech was super advanced? As for this place, we think it was some kind of solar network for them.
She says, squinting up into the two suns.
Looking at it from above, you can see these big vines traveling up and down the ridges like power lines. And there's hardly any plant life elsewise, like they soaked up all the energy and made it a desert. But what'd they use the energy for?
She says.
And if there was a civilization so big and so advanced on Vertumna, why can't we find more traces of it? Where are the cities? What were them thumpers for? And what happened to them all?
She's right. That's a lot of questions. Maybe you can help find some answers. Oh, okay. And that glowing thingy on the ground. You point it out. Utopia gives it a nudge with her foot.
Beats me.
She says. You unearth the object. It's pulsing with light and warm to the touch.
Hold up.
Utopia says.
Don't just go picking things up, Soul. Could be radioactive, you know?
Utopia waves her hollow palm crystal over it, then checks her interface.
Only a little.
She concludes.
Whatever it is, it looks old. Like thousands of years old. We've been digging up glowing gadgets all over this region, but got no clue what they're for. You hang on to that one. Maybe you'll figure it out.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, those ruins are the main thing we need you to survey while you're out here.
Utopia says.
But keep an eye out for anything else weird.
Utopia claps the dust off her hands.
Well, my job here is done. You're all set, kid. Try not to fall off a cliff.
This jumps back on his glider too. As usual, he's going to scout on ahead and catch up with you later. You find your way blocked by a massive wall. No, a hollow pillar, knocked over and lying on its side in the sand. It's absolutely massive. It stretches to your left and right at least a kilometer in each direction. Though at some points it's crumbled enough that you could likely scale over it. Check it out. This looks giddy as you follow the pillar to its base. A large pyramid almost entirely lost under the sand. You brush away some of the sand and find that the pyramid is inscribed on all sides with pictures of, well, wormholes. You think. This pillar must have once stretched up into the sky. Maybe it was some kind of observatory, or a sacred building, or just a monument to the wormhole. Mysterious. You're walking along a ridgeline when your foot knocks some rocks down the slope. You anticipate the familiar clatter as they plunge down into the chasm, but realize it's silent, just the wind. You peer down the slope. Nothing's falling? Wait, the rocks you dislodged with your foot are just floating. You take a step forward and realize you feel lighter too, like you've taken off your mountaineering gear. You take another step forward. It's a struggle to keep your foot on the ground. With one more step forward, you realize it's possible to take both feet off the ground. You're floating. You nudge your foot and let the momentum float you forward a few feet, feeling more untethered by gravity the farther forward you go. The ridgeline is narrow, with a steep drop on either side. There's no way around this strange anti-gravity field, and if you fall out of it, you might plummet into the chasm. Onward! You float forward, allowing yourself to rise higher and higher until you're able to swim and tumble through the air with ease. Woo, wow, you're totally weightless! You float over a shiny, lumpy rock, jutting up from the spine of the ridge. As you pass over it, you feel gravity gently begin to embrace you again, pulling you back down. Your feet touch the ground again on the other side, and your legs immediately give out. What a rush! You mark the location on your map for other surveyors. A cautious natural land bridge drops down sharply on both sides here. You kick a rock over the side but don't hear it hit the bottom. Do you cross? Cross the bridge very carefully. You shuffle across it slowly, examining the cracks and sticking to the solid places. You accidentally send a few more pebbles skittering over the edge, and you think better them than me. You're scaling a huge rock plateau when you're suddenly overcome with an incredible feeling of peace. You've never felt anything like this. You literally feel lighter, like all of your troubles have been lifted away. The feeling is stronger when you touch the rocky surface, and you realize it's radiating from the rock. And Dis is here! Dis is sunning himself on top of the rock, stripped down to his shirt. He looks up as your shadow falls over him.
Oh?
He says, slowly.
You found it too, huh?
He shades his eyes from the sun as he looks up at you.
You feel it, right? Like, you just feel happy here. That's why I haven't told anyone about this place.
He says.
That's how they get you, you know?
He says.
Once they know you love something, they can use it to control you.
Who's they? Dis gestures lazily.
You know. People. The world. Life.
He says.
I like this place because it feels like it's somewhere where I'm not just a cog in the machine, you know? You're going to keep it a secret though, right?
Dis asks.
I don't want this place dug up and studied. It'll ruin it.
He scowls.
People always ruin things. Especially researchers. Some things you don't need to understand.
Okay, it's our secret. You do take a few readings though, just because. All data is important. You mark down the location, but fudge the coordinates so anyone they send out afterwards will get lost. You wonder if the rock is natural. Animals seem to really like it. As you're taking readings, you watch a swarm of Dorbs moths basking on the rock as well, just like Dis. When you lie down on the rock beside Dis, letting the strange magic fill you with an incredible sense of peace, love, and unity with the universe. The path ahead is blocked by a field of snaking vines and brambles. They're flowering, enormous happy blossoms swaying in the shimmering heat waves. You could push through them, but your holopalm beeps a warning. A radiation warning! These flowers seem to be highly radioactive. Far too radioactive for the mild shielding your suit provides. You might be able to pass through, if you don't mind feeling the effects of radiation sickness until you can detox at medbed. Well, if it doesn't kill you outright. Radiation is unpredictable. Take a sample. You snag a sample you can study later in geoponics. Turn around. This little gazebo is set up as a waiting area for the automated transporters, which trundle back and forth between here and the colony. A sign reads, Autobus Depot, Western Rusting Ridge. Water catch drone and 4 liters of water per day required in this zone. Should you experience dizziness, hallucinations, or loss of time, please report the location for further study. Go home. Are you sure? This will end the month. Go home.
Heads up!
You barely manage to find cover as water arcs over your head. You look around and Cal waves sheepishly, a garden hose in his other hand. He's surrounded by kids who are hooting and cheering for him to turn the hose on them again.
Sorry,
He calls out.
I guess it got away from me.
I found something you might like. Cal gasps.
My favorite food! And on my birthday too!
He makes grabby hands at the cake and takes a big huff of the pleasant sugary smell as his eyes slip closed in sheer pleasure.
Wow, Soul.
He breathes.
You are really the best of the best. Here, you have a piece too. Let the icing melt in your mouth and let all your worries melt away with it.
Back in the lab, you have all the right equipment to properly examine the radioactive plant you found. Maybe you can find a way to protect yourself from them, so you don't need to drag a radiation-proof envirosuit with you every time you go to that part of the planet. Radiation poison isn't the killer it used to be on Earth. With medbeds, you can flush out deadly doses of radiation in a few hours. It could still make you really sick though, and high enough doses could kill you before you're even able to reach a medbed. How confident are you that you know how to protect yourself? I think I'll be okay. You take a careless approach to protecting yourself from the radiation. It can't be so bad that you won't be able to get to medbed in time, right? You wear gloves and a face shield and get to work. After about a few hours, you start feeling dizzy. The dizziness quickly becomes nausea, and while you're puking your guts out in a bucket, you have to admit that you're probably feeling the effects of radiation poisoning. Radiation poisoning? Who could have predicted that? You're not done with your experiment, though. Keep going, it's fine. Oh, indestructible youth. What's a little hair loss and diarrhea? It's just a plant. You're better than a plant. This might be one of the dumbest things you've ever done. You'll be in the medbay wishing it killed you for at least a week. But you did complete your experiment. You discover that the radioactive part of the plant is confined to the carpel of the flower, its reproductive organs, and that the petals act as a radioactive shield to protect the rest of the plant. If you press the center of the flower, the petals close and block the radiation enough that a person can pass by without feeling sick. Neat! You should be able to use this to protect yourself next time you encounter this plant in the wild. You visit your mom's little garden. There's a small shrine set up in memory of her and your father, her favorite flowers, his old boots. On Earth, they used to put whole bodies into boxes and bury them underground. The colonies always skipped the decomposition step, using a process to quickly render bodies into nutrient-rich mulch. Your mom and dad stipulated that their remains would be used here, added to the dirt they tended so lovingly in life, sitting here, feeling like they could just be around the corner. Talk to them. About what? How much you miss them. You spend some time talking in the general direction of the shrine about how much you miss your mom and dad, and how unfair it is that they died so young. You know that the whole colony is your family, but being orphaned at 16 is still a heavy blow. You imagine your mom ruffling your hair and telling you to toughen up, and getting a warm bear hug from your dad. You hear footsteps behind you, and the creaking of the little garden gate. Cal kneels beside you and gazes at the shrine.
I miss them too,
he murmurs.
I know I already have more parents than the average person, but your mom and dad were kind of like my parents too. They taught me everything I know about agriculture and how to care for animals.
He smiles sadly.
I hope I can be half the farmer they were.
Fall to pieces and blubber your eyes out. Your parents are gone, and they're not coming back. It's all too much. Most of the time you can keep it together, but then something will happen that reminds you of them and it all comes crashing back over you, swallowing you up in grief. Cal holds you, but you don't think anything will ever make this pain go away. Who's in charge of geoponics now? Cal sighs.
Me, I think.
That makes sense.
Well, no one really wanted the job.
Cal replies. He scratches his fingers in the loamy dirt as he speaks.
Your parents were kind of, well, without them, no one really comes close. Most everyone else who works in geoponics, they're just semi-skilled workers who don't know as much of the actual science as they did. They really pushed me to learn that stuff too.
He says.
You know, nitrogen cycles and soil chemistry and veterinary science, so I guess everyone just kind of thought I could train up at it.
He sighs and rubs his chin, leaving an earthy smear.
It's not like I want the job,
he admits.
I mean, I'm only 18. What do I know about running a farm? But the way the other people in geoponics talk about it, it's like they think it's cursed.
He stops and smiles apologetically.
Sorry. I'm sure it's not really cursed. Mostly,
Cal continues,
everyone here is just doing the same job they always were. I'm supposed to go to council meetings, but I just let them make decisions and they tell me what to do.
You and Cal sit and contemplate your parents' memorial shrine for a while longer. Eventually, Cal has to get back to work. He lets you know it's okay to take the day off if you need to. Marz is wearing Nomi's VR headset and smiling. When you tap her on the shoulder, she jumps and rips it off, scowling.
Oh, it's you,
she says, fluffing her hair.
I thought it was another adult coming to tell me to do something useful.
She holds up the VR headset.
Oh, this? Nomi realized that you can load the old museum guided tours onto this thing, so you can actually feel like you're walking around in the Louvre, or the Guggenheim. So it's cool, right? Finally, some culture.
I found something you might like. Marz laughs, taking the crystal and turning it over in her hands, inspecting it.
Well, I've had better birthday gifts this year, but I admit this crystal is pretty fabulous. I'll add it to my collection.
You're heading back to your quarters at the end of the day, and as you pass by the medbay, you hear shouts and scrambling from within. Several surveyors have come back with serious wounds, not the usual broken limbs and sunstroke. One of them is holding a towel to her own leg, staunching blood flow from a massive animal bite. Another looks nearly blinded from acid. It looks like chaos in there. Help in medbay. Gosh, it's a good thing you were here. Triaging and getting the most badly wounded into the medbeds is difficult. And the others need traditional medical attention while they wait. It's hectic, stressful work. But you're able to keep your head and provide assistance.
Good work in there, Soul.
Chief Engineer Instance says.
You know, with how the colony's grown, I could use an assistant nurse here. Someone I can trust to take care of things while I'm working in the lab. Come back next month and give me a hand if you're interested.
Vace looks exasperated by your presence.
Hey, it's Rex's little buddy.
He says, scowling.
Get out of here before I have to send him a message about how I don't want his little gang of dickwits stinking up my garrison.
He cracks his knuckles.
You are not going to like my choice of medium.
Here, I have something for you.
Who told you it was my birthday?
Vace asks, accepting the pulsating device.
Whatever this is, it looks dangerous. It's a good thing you brought it to me.
Your work often overlaps with Tangent's work in the biochemistry and genetics lab, so it's not uncommon for her to pop by and ask questions about what you're working on, or for you to ask her for help interpreting some test results. She's uncharacteristically animated whenever she gets to talk about science, almost like she's a whole different person. She even laughs sometimes.
Don't you think it's so interesting how retumnant species resist being classified by any known taxonomy?
She asks, peering into the root network you've sandwiched between pieces of clear glass. She stands up.
Feels like everything is a little bit fungal.
She says,
spores, fruity bodies, mycelial networks, even in animals.
Some animals here even photosynthesize. She nods excitedly.
The division between plant, animal, and fungus is less strict here than it was on Earth. At the cellular level, many animal species have properties of plants, and vice versa.
She launches into an explanation of how high-energy bonds store energy and require a metal catalyst, like iron in human blood and chlorophyll in green earth plants. But how the different hues of retumnant plants must mean they use an entirely unknown elemental catalyst, possibly not even a metal at all. It's a little advanced for you, but Tang is very excited about it. She stops and takes a breath, winded by her own monologue.
Sounds, Soul. If retumnant plants and animals share an elemental catalyst, and we found out what it is, we can learn so much about this planet!
Help advance her theory. You show Tangent what you've been working on. All the samples and simulations, the results of scans and experiments.
Incredible,
Tangent says, going over your notes.
We've been attempting to map the genomes of various samples in order to construct a phylogenetic tree. But we're at a capacity already. Can I take this?
Of course. Tangent smiles.
Thank you, Soul. This is more helpful than I can say.
Chief Engineer Instance forwards you some kudos for sharing your research. This is kneeling at the edge of the expedition's staging area, checking through his backpack.
I can't wait to get out there again,
he says.
I hate being cooped up in the colony, with everyone's drama. And everything always smells like shit.
He takes a deep breath for effect.
Yeah, I'm not gonna miss that when I'm gone.
Dare you to go into a restricted area. You dare Dis to explore the creepiest, darkest part of engineering, deep down where even Chief Engineer Instance never goes. Under the recycling room where they say there are ghosts. You set the mood, then sneak around behind him, put your holopalm flashlight under your face and shout boo! He rolls his eyes.
Soul, think about it. If there were ghosts on this spaceship, one of them would be my mom.
Oh, yeah, you guess that would scare a normal person, but Dis still isn't scared of anything.
Look at them.
Dis says, gesturing to a squad of soldiers as they job around the perimeter of the colony.
They don't even know they're already dead.
He laughs without smiling.
Stupid. Why even bother fighting?
Does this interest you? He scrutinizes the device for a bit, but then his shoulders slump.
Did you give this to me because it's my birthday?
He asks.
I actually hate it when people make a big deal about my birthday. It's, look, maybe you should go do something nice for Tang. She actually likes the attention.
Thinking of changing my sleeping habits.
Tang says.
If I only need to sleep 8 out of every, say, 36 to 48 hours, must they all be endured all at once? Imagine the efficiency of taking a 15-minute nap every 4 hours instead. Why? That's practically no time at all.
Here, I have something for you.
It seems you've remembered my birthday.
Tang says, taking the roots and turning them over in her hands. Her lip curls in distaste at the dirt that still cling to them.
How thoughtful of you. I have much to do today, but I'll set these roots aside to analyze later.
She turns to walk away, then remembers herself.
Thank you.
She adds, almost as an afterthought. You spot Tang sitting on a large boulder outside the lab. She's eating a pressed soy bar ration with determination, alternating bites with huge gulps of water to wash it down as quickly as possible. What are you doing out here? She stops her grim work long enough to acknowledge your question.
I hit the limit on the number of consecutive hours they'll allow me to work in the lab.
She says.
So I'm taking a break.
She says, making mocking air quotes around the sentence. How dare they?
That's what I said.
Tang replies.
They just think they can boss me around because I'm younger.
She scoffs.
I'm smarter than any of 2 of them combined.
Tang groans and rubs her bloodshot eyes.
I just want to work. You know? It's so frustrating to be deep in the zone and feeling like I'm just on the precipice of a discovery. And then someone tells me that apparently my genius is taking too long. I want them to treat me like I belong there. The way Dr. Instance does.
Tang mutters.
She actually respects me. They're just jealous that she likes me.
Tang slides off the boulder, and you see the color bleed from her face as she stumbles into you, nearly crumpling to the ground.
Oh.
She grits out, leaning over while the dizziness passes.
I thought the nutritional uptake of that bar would be quicker than a real meal, especially after taking into the account the time required to walk to the cafeteria.
She trails off, realizing she's clutching your jacket and pushes you away.
My apologies,
she says, brushing herself off.
I am, regrettably it seems, only human.
Tang scrubs her hands over her face.
Sometimes it feels like I'm a prisoner in my own body. Like, I can feel myself trapped in it. This stinking, sweating bag of meat and bad impulses. Stuck with the burden of keeping it alive every day for the rest of my life. And...
Her voice breaks. Tang, wait, are you crying? Tang scowls and wipes her eyes, angrily.
Reflexive lacrimation is an evolutionary response to emotional and physical stress.
She snaps.
In other words, no. I'm not crying. It's just this resentment for my physical form. It reminds me of when I was little. And Instance used the genetech to give me this body. The right body. Only this body's wrong too.
She adds, quietly.
It's right in a lot of ways, but it's still imperfect. It's still human. If I were AI, everything would be more simple. I could just do my work. I could just do what I'm good at. No messy biological functions, no emotions, just clear and beautiful purpose. I hate this.
Tang sniffles.
I hate feeling like this.
I'm always here to listen, Tang. Tangent manages a watery smile as she wipes her eyes.
Thanks,
she says.
I apologize for being all wet on you. It won't happen again.
She wipes her eyes and straightens her jacket, then takes a deep breath and holds it for 10 seconds. Her eyes closed. By the time she opens them again, she looks ready to go back to work as if nothing has happened. You admire Tangent's determination, but sometimes you think it might come at a price. Your parents' remains have mixed into the soil here, nourishing the plants from Earth your mom loved so much. You spend some time this month cleaning up around our memorial stones and clearing away the weeds. Being here makes you sad, but it's the kind of sad that makes you feel lighter when it's over. You report for your first shift as Dr. Instance's nursing assistant. Instance was never supposed to be the literal doctor for everyone in the colony. All of the colony's medical needs were supposed to be covered by the medbeds. And then eventually with trained medical professionals from your generation. With the growing number of wounded and sick, it's pulling Instance's attention away from her actual work in the lab. Hence why she needs the help.
I'm a doctor, not a physician.
Instance grumbles as she wipes through her holopalm to give you access to the medbay systems.
I can study the local xenofauna so it stops killing us, or I can treat burns and upset tummies. I can't do both. There,
she says, as the haptics in your holopalm pulse.
You should have access. Now don't bother me for anything less than a cranial bleed. It's a medbed, not a jar of leeches. Just follow the instructions and push the right buttons. You need something? Ask Congruence.
Congruence beams at you from her holomonitor.
Can you handle that?
I can handle anything!
That's the spirit.
Congruence chirps.
It's you and me, soul. High five.
You gently bonk Congruence's panel with your open palm, and she laughs. There are no patients today, so you're going to brush up on your first aid training. Every colonist gets first aid training starting in their early teens. Lungs gotta breathe, hearts gotta beat, blood should stay inside the body. Check. You run through quiz scenarios with Congruence for a whole week. CPR, evaluate and put pressure on wounds, wrap broken bones, flush eyes with water, leave foreign objects in, and be real careful with neck injuries.
Fun fact!
Congruence informs you.
In the field, your holopalm can discharge its batteries all at once as a makeshift defibrillator.
First aid is important, but the goal is to just get the person stable long enough to bring them here, to a medbed. That's where you and Dr. Instance will take over. You'll be fine. It might only be a matter of life or death. No biggie. Wake to the soothing sound of your dad's voice. Then remember he's still gone. You wonder how long it will be before you stop expecting him to be here. You're lying in bed, staring at the wormhole through your window when you hear a deep thump resonate through the ground. Then a second one, quieter. The woven roof of your room quivers, unleashing a season's worth of fine glowing dust to sift through the air. Through your open window, you hear voices sounding the alarm. The annual offensive is here, and leading the charge are two massive faceless. Hide inside. Just hearing people shouting about the faceless triggers panic. Your chest clenches, Your guts roil and you break out in a cold sweat. You're no use to anyone like this. Best to just stay inside. You pull the covers up over your head and try to calm down. Every so often you hear more of those deep whump noises, and the zist of blast rifles. They get louder, so close you can differentiate the massive footfalls of the creatures and what must have been the heliopause's explosives. The walls shake with the shockwaves of the explosions. Then you hear a loud explosion, the loudest you've ever heard. Your entire room shakes, the floor and walls vibrating with the massive shockwave that rips through your quarters. Then, nothing. Silence. A few moments later, your holopom chimes an all-clear message. You creep out to your balcony to survey the damage. People filter out of their hiding spaces, shielding their faces from the heat coming off the bonfire in the middle of the square. On the horizon, the first watery rays of quiet sunrise are struggling to make a dent in the hot orange glare. The colony's fire suppression system is turned on the square, revealing the charred corpses of the two faceless. Utopia walks by with the reclamation team, hauling an industrial blast cutter on a hoverlift.
Did he use the mining explosives?
Utopia says in awe.
Mighty bold of him. Those things will blow a hole in a mountain. Or a creature, I suppose.
She sighs.
Wish you could have saved him for mining. That must have been the last of them. And we sure can't make more.
Then she and her crew are out of earshot as they pick their way down the blast crater to carve up the faceless for recycling. Fortunately, the colony was well defended. You and the other colonists have been fortifying the defenses, putting security above all else. Tonight's defense was still a resounding, if messy, success. But, if Utopia's right, you don't have any more of those explosives now. You can't just nanoprint unstable molecules like that. What are you going to do during the next attack?